Crawford, I know the other guy's talking about he's already made plans that he's gonna fight. He's gonna fight Janibek. Well, you still got the Cuban assassin.
The second half of the fight put an emphasis on the fact that Bud was in fact outboxing him in the first half of the fight.
But Bud is more fierce, more fearsome, and more angrier and more meaner than both of those guys.
The boxing world assumed Terence Crawford would finally slow down after walking into Las Vegas in September 2025 and dismantling Canelo Alvarez to become the undisputed ruler at 168 pounds. Most fighters would ride off into the sunset after a moment like that, but Crawford isn't like most fighters. While the confetti was still being swept off the floor at Allegiant Stadium, Bud was already plotting his next conquest. The rumor that everyone whispered has now been confirmed. Crawford is dropping to 160. He wants undisputed glory in a fourth weight class.
The second half of the fight put an emphasis on the fact that Bud was in fact outboxing him in the first half of the fight. It is one of the biggest wins in boxing history. And now let Uncle Max gather around, children, and I will explain this. This is the situation, guys. No one has ever been a 4-division champion in boxing. Not a real one. Oh, Pacquiao won 8 and Oscar De La Hoya won 11 and this one won 15. No, I'm talking about Ring Magazine champ or lineal champ. You are the champion of that division.
Get them all.
Forever, the record was 3 by Henry Armstrong. Manny Pacquiao was the first dude to really win 4. Floyd gets credit for 4 for beating Canelo, but that wasn't at the junior middleweight limit. I don't count that.
Right.
I don't count that.
Right.
Terence Crawford just joined Manny Pacquiao as the only legit 4-division champion in the history of boxing.
It's a chilling reality for anyone at middleweight, but one man isn't backing away. One fighter is jogging straight toward the danger. A 42-year-old Cuban legend is stepping back into the spotlight. Erislandy Lara isn't just requesting the fight. His camp is demanding it.
Been with Lara a long time. Long time. He's about to make history. When he unifies those titles, Crawford, I know the other guy's talking about he's already made plans that he's gonna fight. He's gonna fight Janibek. Well, you still got the Cuban assassin right here, baby. The technician, one of the best to ever do it. Canelo, you know we got. Come on, Canelo, you know. One of the best to ever do it, man.
They believe they've spotted something in Crawford's style that the rest of the world has overlooked. And if you think this is just an aging champion chasing one final payday, you might be falling for the same trap Crawford could be walking straight into.
Unification come, Marcel, you know. You've been there since the beginning. You were there for that Canelo robbery.
Unification coming.
It's coming. December 6th, baby.
And you want Crawford?
Hey, he can get it too. He can get it too. All the respect to him. One of the best to ever do it. But why wouldn't you want the best? He's at the elite. He's at the peak. Why wouldn't you want the best? Right? That's what it's all about, going against the best. The cream of the crop. One of the best to ever do it. Don't forget about my man Alex. And Louis D. Louis D. That's a product of Louis D. One of the best managers in boxing, baby. Jack. Can you get a photo with Rob?
Erislandy Lara and his trainer Bob Santos aren't speaking politely. They're issuing warnings. Santos recently delivered a cold message aimed directly at the Omaha superstar. Lara is the most dangerous fight for you at 160.
I don't know, these guys both come from a big amateur background. You know, Lara is gonna obviously older, so that's why you probably favor Janibek. But Janibek, I don't think is a spring chicken himself, right? So I mean, it's one of those things where there's gonna be, I think, like Champ Chris said, it's not the most exciting fight, but there's a lot of chess here because these guys come from a very high IQ background, both in their amateur careers and it's still over into their pro careers. And there's decent power there as well. You know, Lara's getting some sort of highlight reel knockouts. We've seen Janibek do that here and there. So, you know, that kind of thing is also not out of the question.
Canelo Alvarez has been a great fighter his whole career. People like Erislandy Lara gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. But Bud is more fierce, more fearsome, and more angrier and more meaner than both of those guys. So you know if they showed you the blueprint, Bud gonna go out there, take that blueprint and do even more with it, which is what Bud did. So it was never a question in my mind Well, the Bud really was going to outbox me, just if he could take the punch. And right away he showed, bam, he could take the punch. So I know from that point, if he just slow him down, which he did, he'd be okay. Then late in the fight, what other people still didn't see, late in the fight, Bud started hitting Canelo's body.
The strategy here is fascinating. Santos and Lara aren't leaning on youth or raw strength. They're betting everything on elite ring IQ. Their narrative is simple. Crawford has never faced a technician who can match his chessboard thinking. Lara, the longtime WBA champion, has been the division's boogeyman for more than a decade, the fighter nobody ever looks good against. His team is publicly challenging Crawford's pursuit of greatness. They're asking the hard question, why wouldn't you want the best?
You know, you favor Janibek, but if Janibek gives you one of these dud performances, you know, Lara has the craftiness to offset him, you know? So I think it's more important for Janibek to be the guy to really be on, because I think Lara, yeah, he's been inconsistent, but for the most part, you kind of know what you're going to get with Lara. You know, he can offset you, and he will offset you if you don't show up at your best. You favor Janibek because Lara is much older, but I don't know, man. I mean, if Janibek gives us one of those inconsistent performances that we've seen, you know, it's not out of the question that Lara here comes in and beats him.
That's it. That's it. Yes! 1-1-2.
If Crawford truly wants to cement himself as the greatest ever, he can't dodge the toughest puzzle at 160 simply because the man holding the pieces is in his 40s. Lara's camp believes they possess Bud's kryptonite. It's not power, it's precision. Old clips have resurfaced showing Lara explaining exactly how to neutralize elite counterpunches, and fans are starting to connect the dots.
Erislandy Lara, before we went on camera, you and I were talking about how long he's been in the game. Made his debut in 2008. Maybe the best pure boxer of this era, and that's saying a lot.
I mean, pure boxer who has transformed himself into a pure puncher, apparently. Since he's been fighting at middleweight, he's scoring first-round knockouts against, yeah, I mean, not the most descriptive opposition, but you mentioned how 160 hasn't been the deepest division as of late. But yeah, he started knocking guys out later, and we talked to Bob Santos about that, and he was saying, he's like, yeah, he always had power, but he moved more. Now that he's set down on his punches, he's not moving quite as much because he's got older legs. Now that power is starting to show itself, which you really need at middleweight. And even though Lara, came up from 54, had some really good big wins down there. I thought he beat Canelo Alvarez at 54, by the way. But it's now moved up to middleweight. It's turned out to be a good puncher at middleweight with not only respectable power but world-class power. And this is an interesting fight.
Yeah, he's an older guy, so obviously there's always those veteran tactics. But again, Alan Canuli he's from the Soviet school of boxing, so I don't know how many you have. Chris, maybe you know better than me. This guy was one of those guys with tons of amateur fights.
Absolutely. I don't know off the top of my head, but he's probably one of those guys with 200-300.
No, I do think we have to start rating that. We have to start understanding that. When we talk about a guy only lost with 8 fights, like I see idiot fans, for example, talking about when they want to criticize somebody, or he lost to this guy, only had 8 pro fights. Yeah, like the same guy with 8 pro fights also had 1,000 amateur fights, dude. Right. That actually matters, So
the Cuban assassin has built his career on making aggressive fighters look foolish. And his team believes Crawford's calculated aggression will be his downfall against a southpaw who refuses to dance on anyone else's terms. Bob Santos didn't hold back. He insisted Lara is ready to unify right now. That marks a major shift in tone. Lara isn't hiding. He's hunting. It's a high-stakes move that screams confidence. They're not worried about Crawford's speed or switch hitting. They believe Lara's airtight defense is the one code Crawford can't crack.
But if you ask me what I think about Janibek Canuli fighting Erislandy Lara, Erislandy Lara, his legs aren't what they used to be, but he knows how to move, how to set traps. He's got long arms. He knows how and when to throw that left hand. I mean, you kind of got to favor Alan Canuli, but I would not be surprised if Erislandy Lara clipped him. Now, this is where shit gets interesting. No matter what happens, either Alan Canuli or Lara will end up with having 3 belts at 160. And Adames and Sultanov, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to have that WBC belt. But then you got Terence Crawford, who may be able to come down and in 2 fights become undisputed at 160. Because I do think Crawford will beat Erislandy Lara. I think he will beat Alan Canuli. Adamus can fight, man, and he and Crawford both can switch it. He got power. He's athletic. That's not an easy fight for Crawford. Nursultanov, I think Crawford beats him. But I think Crawford, the more you look at this, Crawford may be sitting back just watching, saying, "Shit, I may get the 4-for-1 deal." He may do something else in the interim. Let these fights play out, and then see what happens. Where maybe he lets those guys fight it out for Undisputed, and Crawford goes down in the one fight, picks up 4 belts. But we got to sit back and wait and see how this all plays out. But I do think for Crawford, the David Benavidez fight, yeah, whatever. But what's really interesting is Crawford, no kidding, is maybe 2 or 3 fights away from becoming undisputed at 160, if he can do the business down there. But let these guys damage themselves and bang themselves up first to just make it even easier for Crawford to get another undisputed distinction.
But before we talk super fights, Lara must survive a brutal obstacle. On December 6th, he enters a unification showdown many insiders believe he won't get out of. His opponent? Janibek Eliminuli, the vicious puncher holding the WBO and IBF belts. This isn't just a title fight. It's a semi-final for the Crawford sweepstakes. The stakes couldn't be higher. Janibek is the betting favorite for a reason. He's a knockout machine in his prime. But Lara is the master technician who's seen every style imaginable. If Lara loses, the dream dies and he likely retires as a forgotten great. If he wins, he instantly becomes the man standing between Crawford and history.
Best jab, I would have to go with Lara.
Lara?
Yeah.
What about the jab? Quick, powerful?
It was tough to get inside. He's the only fighter. Every fight I fought on TV, I stopped him. Every fight I ever fought on television before Lara, I stopped him. And that was the first fighter that was able to stay away from me, so I say Lara. Best footwork, I would say probably Terence Crawford.
Terence Crawford?
Terence Crawford. He's moving on me pretty good, yeah. Terence Crawford.
IQ. It's the last one.
Oh, damn, I was Terence Crawford, IQ. All right, best IQ, probably Terence Crawford.
Terence Crawford.
December 6th isn't just a fight. It's the audition for who gets to be Crawford's final boss. So, is Bud worried? Not remotely. At the recent WBO convention in Colombia, Crawford sat right beside Janibek's manager. He stared into the camera, pointed to his eyes, and said, "I got my eyes on you." Cold. Calculated. He didn't pick a side. He didn't need to. He knows he's coming for whoever survives. The message is clear. Crawford is targeting the winner of Lara versus Janibek. No tune-ups. No warm-ups. Just gold. As he recovers from the Canelo War, he's waiting to see which champion walks into his crosshairs.
Now you got Crawford looking to go down, possibly. Janibek, I got my eyes on you. You know what I mean? And fight at 160. Why not stay at 168? You're undisputed there. Because you're not really a 168 pounder and you're not trying to fight the Diego Pachecos and Mbillis of the world at 168 because they're not in the same position as Canelo. Like, I don't care what none of y'all say. I said what I said. I meant what I said. Janibek versus Crawford. I mean, I guess if he beats Lara, then maybe. But I just don't see that being bigger and better than the options at 54, like Fundora, Boots, Virgil Ortiz, if he beats Lubin especially, or even like Murtazaev. Like, what's the real difference between beating a Janibek and a Murtazaev? Neither name is like super recognizable, and it just, this is kind of back to the types of names that Crawford was fighting with Top Rank, and that's just the skinny of it, you know. Fighting some good fighters, like Janibek's a good fighter, but it's a backtrack. How you go from Canelo to possibly a Janibek, unless he do something crazy versus Lara, and then like how Andy Ruiz blew up overnight beating Joshua, which completely different circumstance, so I doubt that would happen. You dig? Janibek is fighting a 40-year-old Lara. Great fight, sleeper fight, but at the same time, I don't think a victory over a Lara at 40 is going to blow him up to the level needed to make Crawford and Janibek like a blockbuster fight where it does 1 million pay-per-views or something. right?
But is Crawford playing with fire? Some fans think so. They argue Lara's style is a nightmare for someone cutting down in weight. If Crawford comes in drained or overly confident from the Canelo victory, Lara is exactly the kind of quiet, surgical southpaw who can steal rounds and hand Bud his first loss. And politics might spoil everything. Even if Lara wins and Crawford wants the challenge, the IBF has already ordered the Lara Janibek winner to face mandatory challenger Austin Williams with zero flexibility. This is the kind of bureaucracy that kills super fights. If the IBF strips the winner, the undisputed opportunity disappears. But legacy has a way of overpowering politics. Crawford is chasing something mythical, 6 titles across 6 divisions. Lara wants to etch his name into history as the man who beat the greatest of his era. Both men are at a point where money is secondary, legacy is king. If Lara wins on December 6th, public pressure could force the sanctioning bodies to step aside. On one side stands the greatest fighter of this generation, fresh off the biggest win of his life, hunting one last division. On the other is a 42-year-old Cuban master unwilling to fade quietly. Erislandy Lara is wagering his entire legacy on one belief: he is the riddle Crawford cannot solve. And he has every reason for confidence. Ask any real boxing fan about 2014, they'll tell you Lara beat Canelo. He schooled the superstar, made him miss all night, and was robbed on the scorecards. Lara knows he already toppled the giant once without getting the credit. He won't let history repeat itself. Many think he's marching toward his execution, but in boxing, it's the shot you never see, or the old line you underestimate, that ends everything. Crawford may have his eyes on the throne, but he better keep his guard high, because the Cuban assassin is preparing to strike. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss what's coming next. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned, we'll see you in the next one.